Hello and welcome back to the thearkofe podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers. Back with you after a nice little summer hiatus. Extended paternity leave for Gavin.
Yeah.
And just a nice long chill out time for me. A lot of going to the movies, a lot of work, and more recently, a lot of Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. But this is not a gaming podcast. We are here to talk about three of the biggest shows of the summer. The summer binge, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Two of them dropped, all in one go, and one was airing week to week to some consternation. We'll get into all that, but yeah, we're here to talk about The Boys, The Bear, and maybe just we got plenty of time because I kind of forgot it was only going to be a half season, even
Right.
though it was almost a full season length with the extended episodes. But Cobra Kai season 6 part 1. So I'm gonna throw it to you, brother. It's been a minute. Maybe check in with Gav. How you been? How's our guy doing? How's Maverick doing?
He is well, he's been sleeping through the night for the past 3 months. Super early. I feel bad saying that because I hear people like, oh, well, that's nice. Count your blessings. And I'm like, I mean, I do, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm doing. Like I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Like they don't even give you a license. So you don't have to get a license to have it yet. You just have one. Um, but let's see, check up on the 1st of July, and he was 16 pounds. And then had a little dad notice. He was like, his eye looks a little swollen. And he's been like, let me just, when I wake up in the morning, let me like kind of just rub my eyes when I'm like tired or like whatever. And I think he probably just irritated it, but took him back to the doctor about 2 weeks later. And he was already at 18 pounds. So he's growing like crazy, heavier and heavier. And yeah, other than that, he's super good. We're gonna do baseball next week. We're gonna go hopefully go watch a
He,
baseball game Saturday night.
I was gonna say he's playing, starting
Right, yeah.
pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna put him out there for a few innings, see what
Did
he can
you,
do. And
sorry, side note, but TV related, did you ever get into the Real Bros of Simi Valley?
I know all
The
those people
Facebook
in that show,
show?
but
Yeah.
I know what
I
it
try
is. I've
I
just never
tried to get
watched
you
it.
into it, but there is a reunion uh movie on Roku. It's a Roku exclusive, which I know you have access to.
Hmm.
Uh Huge recommend. You could watch it removed from the show, but
Okay.
there's a whole bit where their kid from previous seasons, because they have a baby in like season 2 or 3, I forget.
Hmm.
Uh, Hawk, he basically has like aged into a full-grown man, and they're still, like their
The
age.
age is, yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, Hawk, he grew up. Yeah, he moved out of the house. He got a job, and yeah, I won't spoil the cameo of
Hmm.
who plays Hawk, but very funny, very very funny.
That's funny.
Huge recommend. Real
Hmm.
Bros of Simi Valley, the movie, available on Roku.
Hmm.
And I guess maybe you can rent it other places. I don't know how that works.
It'll probably pop up on like the homepage of so much stuff has popped up on the homepage of the Vizio television out front. I'm like, oh shit, that's here now, and I'll click on that. Because there's I don't know, you probably, well, we can save it towards the end, but like there's a one other series I already binged. I don't think you probably watched because it was on Apple, but it was really good. Dark Matter. I don't know if you've heard anything about it.
I have. Yeah, we'll save Apple discussion for the end because there is one that just recently started that I think is finally gonna be my kick in the pants to get back on Apple because
Which one's that?
because I tapped out for a while. Lady in the Lake
Oh yeah, yeah.
with Natalie Portman and I believe Moses Sumney, but directed by Alma Harrell, who did Honey Boy,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard nothing but amazing things. I think there are 2 episodes out at the moment, so I think I got to dive back in.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
get
been
let
my
me get it.
thing.
Let me get that login. You said you're gonna
I'll
throw
put
me
you on
that
family.
login.
I'll put
Put
you on
me
the fanny plan so you can just use your own
put me
login,
on the
but
fan plan. We can save this
yeah,
for off cast.
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Da Boys season 4. Is that cool
I
with
mean,
you? Let's
yeah, yeah.
let's start there. Uh Overall impressions, what'd you think?
I mean, still over the top, still like, oh shit, like this is what they went there. Like, okay. Um, love the dark comedy, love the just the craziness of it all. I love their trying to have a soul in the middle of it and like trying to just do that. I love the tying in of like quote unquote current events as we see them or may what it may have transpired and whatnot in the time between shooting and writing with everything. And I know that they announced that like next season is it, so I can't
Hmm.
wait to see what happens with that. I don't remember if the others were 10 episodes or if they still were eight. Maybe
I
we
think
didn't get.
if I'm not mistaken, everything has been 8.
Okay.
I guess okay. So tangentially, I don't know. I know you don't pay too much attention to internet discourse. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but this was definitely a I feel like they're thematically linked uh just in our discussion, but this was the season where the boys maybe got a handful of people going like I don't know if it's hitting anymore. I don't know if it was ever hitting, which is a very, a reaction I have heard echoed about The Bear season 3 as
Hmm.
well. So any of that for you? Because I will say, uh, thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought they finished up nice, but I did have some quibbles, some sticking points, and there
Hmm.
were some times where I felt like, to your point, they're still, it's still outrageous. It's still shocking. But is it starting to feel a little bit like, all right, guys, like we let's wrap this thing up. It's time to like how, in trying to top yourself over and over again, there can be kind of a numbing effect where it's just like, oh well, I kind of assumed we were going to the most ridiculous place possible. Uh
Hmm.
did you have any of that this season, I
when
guess?
they brought the animals into it a little bit, I was like, are we really doing this? Like animals on V? All
I
right.
mean, honestly, and like fun sequence, but
Yeah, it
again,
was.
something where I'm like, that feels like something that should have been in like season 1 or 2.
Because
Like,
there's this season one, he picks up a child that has V eyes and uses a like a live baby to like vaporize people, right?
right.
Right. So like we've already hit that, like, and we're gonna go there. And there's a few other things where I'm like,
There was just
all right,
a lot of wheel spinny sort of stuff
yeah,
to me
like
this
the whole
season.
Frenchie
A lot
plot
of
line I
running
could
in
have done
place.
without. Like you could cut out Frenchie's dilemma thing, and I'd
Well,
be like,
well,
okay,
dude,
great.
I mean, maybe the clunkiest handling of like two fan favorite characters, but this was kind of my overall knock against the whole season, just from a character writing standpoint. It feels like they had one idea and one idea only, which was this is the season where everyone is confronting their past. Like
Yeah.
literally for every single major character, that's kind of like that's the thematic journey we're going to take them on. And so I found that really frustrating because I was like there was no dynamics to like nobody else is going through anything different than anybody else. Like literally every time we cut to somebody, like okay, Starlight, Firecracker comes back from her past. She has to confront like, oh, maybe I was a terrible person like before I, got all self-righteous, et cetera, et cetera. Huey and his mom, all of that whole arc with the dad, et cetera, et cetera. Butcher obviously confronting like himself ultimately, but Kessler and like his darker impulses, this whole like war, finally having to deal with Ryan, etc. Homelander early on, which probably one of the stronger episodes where he goes back to Vought.
Oh, that was
Um,
amazing. Like that
that
kind of shit. Anything with Anthony Starr, I think he's
dude,
on
that
another level, dude. That guy does not get any credit whatsoever for
and that
anything,
to that
I feel
point,
like.
I feel like Homelander was a little underserved this season. Like
Definitely.
in the like jump, in the feel of like we're trying to balance everybody, I feel like some of our faves like kind of got lost in the shuffle. Um, but yeah,
Because
I just felt like that was kind of a very rote thing where it's like we came up with one idea of like, okay, everybody's gonna, and again, to continue that thought through, Frenchie dealing with his, past as an assassin, a hired killer, etc. And then they bring back like Kamiko and the Shining Light shit, like which I thought was like firmly settled. And it's like,
right.
it was just, it was like a hat on a hat on a hat. I was like, not everybody needs to be going through this. Like, we can have a season where like some of these characters are just like in forward motion, and
Because it
maybe,
feels like
and
Marvin is
maybe,
all right.
yeah, well, I
Like
was gonna say,
he's still
you
got his shit,
start
but like
out you
he's
start out
slowly.
the season with him having to deal with like the fallout of the ex or the like new stepdad who went
Mhm.
all homelandery and like that pays off in the first episode. Anyways,
I do love that joke though, where he's like, "I don't know what you saw in him. Couldn't have been the D." And she just looks at him, and he's like, he gives it this look. I thought that was like, that's fucking brilliant.
there again, there was there was a
So
lot of
it's still there. The show still has it the entire
oh,
time.
absolutely. And again, I
You
thought
know.
the finale like was one of those like it reminded me like what they do really well and like kind of like for me was a home run. I was like fully engaged the whole time. And also Starlight, who I felt was really like they did not know what to do with her for so much of the season.
Hmm.
The whole thing with like the mimic and like her getting to play against herself, and then getting to do the like, the scenes with Huey where she's not herself, but we get to see like, that shit was super fun, dude. Like when they got
Hmm.
into the when they're all in the bunker and it's like, oh, they might be in here with us, and like the tension of all of that, I was like, dude, like that stuff was firing on all cylinders, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I could have used a little more of that throughout the season. I felt like there were some times where I was just like, all right, this is kind of just feeling like the rote structure. They have a plan, they have a goal for the episode, usually involves a soup that maybe we know a little bit about or we're being introduced to for the first time. They're gonna go there. Shit's gonna go wrong because they're not really good at what they do at all. They're constantly fucking up. That's kind of a part of the show. And like, you know, a feeling ultimately of just like, where are the stakes, dude? Like in the penultimate episode, they have the fight in the boys' offices. And there's like A Train's there, the Deep, Black Noir, Starlight. I think
Hmm.
Mother's Milk is in the mix there. Like and great fight sequence. And I was like totally in it. And then kind of realizing like, oh dude, nobody's gonna die. Like we're not gonna we're not gonna
Hmm.
step it up, dude. Like that we really have that much more to do with the Deep as a character that he can't fucking like bite the dust here. Like,
Right.
I mean, it's like yeah, he's funny to have around, but like we don't have enough like I think we got enough comedy with Homelander alone on the villain front. It's like,
Hmm.
at some point I'm kind of like, dude, people got to start dying, dude. That's why when they did ultimately take out Victoria, it's like it
Oh yeah.
worked. It worked, and that
Yeah.
sequence
You hadn't
was
seen a
like very
superhero
effective.
die in a long
Yeah,
time. You're like, oh okay.
yeah.
And it worked perfectly. Like I think the thing is, I think, and maybe this is just this might sum up why a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I ever had it. So like the inciting incident, we go all the way back, is that Huey and his girlfriend are having a nice day, or maybe they aren't, I don't remember, and A Train just splatters the hell out of her. She's dead. He just runs into her because he was coming down off of something when he was running, yada yada yada. So that is essentially resolved and quote unquote we're good if A Train's willing to like do stuff for them and flip. So you have like the whole crux of like why we were here to begin with, in so much as that Huey was like, I wanted closure. You know, I wanted them to pay for what they did to my girlfriend, and I gotta whatever, whatever. And then, oh well, hello, son. Oh, I can help you. Like here comes Butcher being like, you really want payback, you want revenge, come with me, and we'll actually do something to these superheroes because they're all cunts, they're all pieces of shit, and I'm gonna take every one of them down. That is all essentially resolved when Huey's like, all right, if you just will get this info for me, like, we're good. You're a good guy, A-Train. I know, of all the superheroes that have done fucked up shit, you're probably the least one who's done fucked up shit. And so that is like, since that's done, I feel like you kind of like, okay, so what are we doing here anymore? Because if that was Huey's, obviously he has more motivations and like it's
Well,
okay, it
now
could be the
that
end of the world and all that, but it's like that core thing, it's like just kind of buttoned up and done. And like you do that, but you add other things, but to the point that like I don't remember all the stuff that he's talking about with like um talking about when he goes to talk to Newman and talk about her. Like I get he interned for her in one of the seasons, right? We saw that for a minute. But
that's
it's just
in that's in season
it,
3, yeah.
yeah, it keeps harkening back to stuff that I'm like, okay, I get that these were things, but I'm having trouble remembering them. And I don't know if that's because it's like I couldn't binge. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the first season came out and was completely available, right? And
I
then after
believe
that,
I
they started
believe
picking up
so.
on that. Yeah, so that's
Season 2 I think was the beginning of we drop 3 and then we go week to
right,
week.
right. And so that was what the question I was going to ask was, do you think this would have worked better in a Bear slash Netflix vacuum up? Here's everything, or do you think that because we split it up week by week, we might have been like strung it along, or do you think if they'd have let everything come at once, people would have been like, "Hey, I watched it; it was a great season. All right, we'll go with we're ready for five." Or do you think prolonging what we're getting and kind of like did that maybe add to some of the discourse online of like, okay, and it's another week and I'm still not there with it. When am I going to get there? Do you think that might have played into it, or do
Oh,
you think they
for
could have? It would have
I,
made it better if they released it all at once.
yeah, and I mean I think binging in general is always more generous to a show because you're you know the good stuff is going to rise to the top and you're going to not focus as much on. But yeah, when you have a week in between to think about episodes and listen to reaction podcasts, et cetera, like yeah, you're putting a little more scrutiny on it. And maybe again, The Boys is not necessarily a show that stands up to that kind of like wanting that much more from it. Like, I mean, let's be real, as like, you know, as
This is the guy who
satirical
did
as it
Supernatural, so yeah,
I'm just saying, like, as satirical as it is, and like this season, obviously, for some people getting, you know, too obviously political, and some people, again, to me, just very dumbly not realizing the show they've been watching for for 4 seasons already.
right.
But yeah, with all of that at play, the show's never been subtle. That's not something it's ever tried to be.
Right.
Um, and it's always kind of been at the very, very edges of quote unquote prestige because again, it's elevated by some of the performances to that cal and some of the writing and like, yeah, you've gotten invested in these people, but it's always, to me existed outside of that like upper echelon, but like that's the show, Like
Yeah,
that's
I
its
think
thing. It is the best fucking like high entertainment show you could think, pure like, dude, this is some wild shit to throw on. Like
mhm.
nobody does it better than The Boys currently. No, absolutely nobody does
What
it.
other show are
It
you going to
yeah.
see a a a a TV roadie like that can multiply himself and eating his own ass out like in a giant human
It's
centipede, bro?
just
Like
like
no,
we
there's no other show that's doing that.
just in general, it's always good to have a few of these around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it's just I'm glad that it's still here.
Hmm.
I do have this to point out. I talked about this with a couple people off mic. I enjoy the finale thoroughly. They're kind of like building up in that last like 5 minute montage, and I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I wanted. I was like, I've said this whole time, this felt very wheel spinny. I was like, as we turn the corner into season 5, I want them to like set some stakes that feel like there's going to be a motor to season 5. And when it felt like, oh, dude, okay, Homelander's in charge, New World Order, and first order of business is hunting down all of the boys. They've got to scatter to the winds, and that's season five. Is like they're on the run, trying to figure out a way to take down Homelander still, but like also being hunted by various soups. And like that's a great setup for season five. And then 2 minutes later, all of our human counterparts are captured. Frenchie, Huey, and like Starlight flies off. Kumiko, I guess, is still like, in the mix or whatever. But it's just like I was just like, oh, okay. So they kind of undid that. So clearly they have something else, you know, planned.
Oh no,
Uh,
I just said that's Butcher. Butcher set all that up. It's not really Homelander like you think. That's Butcher making sure all the boys are where they need to be so that he can call them back to do it one last time. I don't think that's anything. I could be wrong. I don't know, but just my gut feeling. I'm like,
you think,
why
why
was
do
it
they
only
show
focused
you?
on,
Why do they show
why
you
did you
him right at the
focus on
very
taking the
end?
boy? Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's driving by himself, but like, and he basically kind of came in at the end and took over, knowing that everyone would hate him for it. So what's he going to do? He's going to separate Huey away from Starlight, you know,
So
more,
that had not occurred to me.
I just
That
thought it was all
makes
Billy.
that
It's
makes
only
perfect
interesting
sense.
that
No,
they
no, no.
kidnapped only the boys. They didn't actually kidnap the
Well,
superheroes.
no,
They
and
took
what
the
that's what I was going to
humans.
say. And what you're saying makes actually perfect sense. My theory on that was I was like, oh, this is Homelander or now back under the guidance of Sage. And the plan is I'm going to capture the human counterparts of these people and basically force them to fall in line.
That
Basically,
too, yeah.
like make them do my bidding and, hold Huey hostage essentially. Like I was like, maybe that's the game plan. But no, what you're saying, I'm like, no, dude, that makes perfect sense because Butcher wants to just like take everybody out at this point after what he sees with Ryan in the finale. It's like, all right, they all gotta
And if
go.
and
And
if she was
so
pulling
yeah,
the
he's
strings and she's gone, then now isn't it Butcher who can pull the strings? If she's gone, and they were at that deep state or that deep level containment facility, and she's
yeah.
gone, and now it's just Butcher left, and it's not Butcher, it's Butcher with the which I don't know. I didn't mind the whole Jeffrey Dean Morgan of it all. I thought that was dope. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh yeah, I mean I
Love
enjoyed all of that.
I love the twist of it. I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I mean,
You know,
I didn't think the twist was particularly cool just because I thought it was like pretty well telegraphed and
yeah.
not a surprise. But I also didn't think the show like yes, it hits it, but and they do the like, hey, in case you missed it, like let's cut back to all the scenes, which is to me like a classic sin of like you shouldn't have to do that. But anyways, uh
Yeah, I always wish
I
people would just
still
keep going forward. Like, and from that moment forward, go with it. So, like, if somebody's figuring it out, keep me in the moment that like they're looking around, they're talking, and other people are like, "What the fuck, bro?" Like, you don't have to go back and show me what happened. It's like
well
I to
all
the point that like we're trained to do that now. Whether it's you and me, but I feel like the average audience is trained to like, okay, that person is coming in here and they aren't talking to
Well,
anybody
there
else
were there
but
were
him.
people again that and yeah, that's just the language of like TV and movies at this point. But like people were calling it from the very first time he appeared because it's like, oh, he pours him a drink and he never drinks from it. Like the cup never moves. Like they're sitting there having a
Mm-hmm.
drink and he never actually touches the cup. There was people who spotted it immediately. I won't say I caught it like from the get-go, but I think it was like either before or definitely firmly by like the barn with the animals when he shows up afterwards and it's just Butcher has the scientist and has taken his leg and Kessler's
Mm-hmm.
just there all of a sudden. That's when I was officially like, hey. And I think they reveal it in the next episode, like,
Yeah, I
or the
do. I'm saying
episode after.
I
But
do like
yeah,
that reveal though of like, wait, it like him just like shut up, bitch, like just not, and you're like, wait a minute,
yeah.
I
But
love
no,
that for like,
I
yeah,
enjoyed their dynamic for sure. Yeah. Uh, Again, overall, like a solid season. I think three was like maybe the tippy top, like the ceiling for the show. I would like to think
maybe.
five, but just all of them getting hooked on V and like how that tears apart the group, etc. Soldier Boy, uh, the Deep, and like that's our introduction, I believe, to Ambrosia, who tragically died this
Yes.
season.
Yes.
Uh, dude, Tilda Swinton, man,
Oh my
I
God, yeah.
need the footage of her doing her
The
VO
ADR
for
port,
the
yeah, that'd be
show. I
great.
need,
Yes.
I need it. Uh, yeah, that's still one of my absolute favorite bits. Uh, as far as set pieces this season, still when I think back to it, dude, the Vought on ice,
Oh my God,
when
yes.
that goes to shit, and like that was one of the funniest things I've seen. In terms of like comedic violence, that's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. That was
Next
wild.
to, yeah, I still, it doesn't top the whole, what was it? The superhero fuckfest thing they had the
Hero
season
gasm.
before?
Here, please,
Hero yeah.
please,
Hero
Gavin,
gasm.
language. Hero
Hero
gasm.
gasm. Hero gasm.
Yeah.
I just, you can't unsee someone shrinking down, someone doing cocaine, shrinking down, running into a shaft like that, and then like sneezing and what that called. That is just, I don't know why that's terrible, but it's so ridiculously funny that like that's what that's just people think of the boys. I'm like, if I had to show one scene from this show to be like, this is what this show is, it's that.
I was
But there
gonna
were a
say,
few
like,
that kind of came to mind this season.
what is the level in that we're gonna have to hit in season five, and how are you gonna be able to do that organically in also trying to like end the show? Like, how are you simultaneously gonna like make time for those sort of set pieces? You know what I mean? Those shock set
Hmm.
pieces. I'm very, I'm very curious. But I've also heard it teased that maybe they'll go the direction of this does have like a hard end, but there's an open door to possibly doing a movie as the final wrap up,
Hmm.
which I could
Did you
also be
watch the
into. But
Did you watch the show, the other show, the teen show?
Gen B, I have not.
See, I don't
Obviously I
know.
know all of the soups that came in to apprehend at the end. I know we're all set up on that show, but
Right.
uh, yeah, no, that is coming back for season two, which I believe is out either later this year or next year. And then I don't think season five drops until 2026, if I'm
Which
not
is fine
mistaken.
because I mean, again, I said it earlier, if you think about it, like this is the guy who like made Supernatural and that show ran for like 8 seasons longer than it needed to. You know what I mean? So like to be cognizant of the fact it's like I know I have an end date. I don't want to be stale with it, even though I don't know. I know that was a network show that had so many and it wanted to get into syndication, all that, but like there is something to be said for like knowing when it's time to hang it up. And it's like that, well, we can talk about that with one of the other ones that we have part one of Cobra Kai. Um, but I just think it's it's always better to err on that side than to jump the shark or to get that. I don't think this show got anywhere near it this season. I don't think they could have gone another one and tried to fool me with like, and we're going to be six, we're going for six. It's like, no, dude, like you're telling me that this is the beginning of the end. I wasn't upset when I read that blurb. I was like, all right, this makes sense. Like I get it. You know, you're gonna do this and you'll have one more full one at some point. You're gonna have five, and from there, because it is like you're saying, you do run into like, okay, all right, I've seen that before. I know what show I'm watching. I get that you may have to let some other people know what show you're watching. But like I've been here since the day one. I know what I'm doing. So like, can you make the rest of these for me? Like I get if you need to do one in the opening, the new season, I gotta kind of remind people of the last seasons. But like from then on, it should be about like the ride or die people who've been there forever.
Yeah.
No.
I
So
think I think that's a pretty good transition point
yeah, yeah.
to The Bear season three, which
Hmm.
opens with uh what I would argue is like the best previously on in the history of television. Uh because it's basically an entire first episode emotionally catching us up to where we are in the story, and also
Hmm.
giving us like, a lot of context that we've heard like referenced and we've seen brief glimpses of, but just giving us way more depth into it, and in a like full on mood piece, like a Nine Inch Nails like mood piece. Uh that that was an astounding way to start what I thought was, for me, top to bottom, a pretty fantastic season of television. I don't I don't get I don't get the backlash other than this just what happens with everything now? Is this what happens like 3 seasons into any show that is so roundly like beloved and accepted initially? Everybody eventually has to go through the cycle of like, I think it sucks now. Hey, I thought it sucked the whole time. You guys were you guys were all about it like 2 years ago. You know, I just I don't know. I'm totally I'm here to listen to those criticisms. I just haven't really heard any valid ones. Uh, that first episode, huge highlight for me. Just kind of getting back into put basically giving you, I thought, some much needed like, yeah, let me get inside this dude's head for a little bit because as I experienced through most of season three, Carmi is a frustrating motherfucker, dude. Like, uh, just a selfish, stubborn, narcissistic, perfectionist asshole who's also, you know, a recovering addict and dealing with a lot of shit. And I want to see him like get his shit together and be a better dude. But god damn, is it frustrating uh throughout this season. But kind of giving you that window into his brain and like this is hey, this guy's cleaning up after a night of business. This is like at any given point, this is the shit that's going through his head. Is basically like every intense, awesome, and terrible thing that's ever happened in his life simultaneously. I thought that was just an incredible first episode. You can jump in whenever. Thoughts on the
Oh no,
season?
I mean, I just, I think I was just a little bit. I was like, I think I said it to you off mic, or I was like, I get it, man. Like, you really love Chicago. Like, I just felt like there was a lot of like, look at how the goodwill of it all, and like it was all these establishing shots and stuff. And I'm like, I get it, but like, I wanted to know. I'll be the average TV viewer, even though this isn't available on like TV right now. It's all on Hulu, but it's like you want after such a gut punch of an ending to a season, like you want that instant, like you want resolution. And that's probably one of my favorite things about all of this season is that you're not given it. And it just says to be continued. So I hope that it's like to continued in another season, not like a season three second half. I don't
That
really like this whole mix take cutting seasons into half. It's like
that
just do a season
that
or
it
don't, you know?
that it, I don't know that I don't know why there was any confusion over that. That's exactly what that means is to be continued in season four. Like
Okay, good, good.
to
Well, no,
get
because I mean, a lot of places, I don't know if it's the strike of it all, but it's like, oh, we're going to do one last season, or we're going to do this, but we're going to split up into just
they
don't. It
Gavin,
must be a Netflix thing.
a Netflix thing.
Well, like,
Who are you mad about?
no, no, I'm just like, why can't you give me all of the If you're going to give me the season, give me the season. You don't have to split it up, you know? Anyway, uh, it's neither here nor there. But I do
They should
appreciate that
to
you.
clarify, just real quick, they shot season three and four simultaneously.
Uh-huh.
It's all done. Like, and I think that is the show for the bear. Like that's it.
Okay.
I'm pretty positive, but they shot it all together because everybody's like so in demand right now, like the entire cast. And they were like, we'll never be able to get everybody together again, you know, a year from
Hmm.
now. So they block shot it all together and then they split it. I believe so this was 10 episodes. I think there's eight more in season four. And I think that is the end of the show, as I
Yeah.
understand it. Uh, but yeah, continue, continue.
No, I mean, I appreciate that you don't get that. I think I like there were two different times I was like, oh, this is my favorite one. Like the getting T's whole backstory and
That was
everything.
definitely,
That
I
was
think
like
the opener, the Tina episode, and
the next one. Then I was like, oh no, that's my favorite.
the ice chips, the
Yeah,
pregnancy
Ice
episode.
Chips. Yeah, that was probably my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
every
that was up
everything
there.
that everything that it meant, what it was said, and just like what you're finding out about stuff is like, okay, you seeing like to because to me like that is the one thing I get. There's the whole like Carmen and Claire Bear and like that of the whole like that's the whole drama of that. But I think remember when we talked about season two, I talked about like she couldn't even come inside, and like you know when she went like when Jamie Lee Curtis's character when she comes out of the hospital room and he's the husband's there. Was it what is his name?
Heat.
um Heat, and Pete's there, and she's like, "You'll be fine," and she just gives him a hug or whatever, and he goes in and she just moseys on down the hall. I'm like, okay, that to me is like that's gonna be okay. Not everything's gonna be okay, but like mother, daughter, son-in-law, that little piece of this story, I feel like there's hope that that'll be okay moving forward because she's like, I'm trying, but like, mom, you bring a lot of shit when it comes to you being around. And she, when Jamie Lee Curtis is like, I know I do, but I'm
Yeah.
trying. Like, I
Yeah,
was like, that's all I
I
need, dude.
think
That's
there's
all I fucking need.
I think that was a great place to leave it with them. I do think there's kind of like one final beat to play, like definitely to bring her back in season four.
Oh,
And
the final
hopefully,
episode should be another Thanksgiving dinner with like a real time hour long Thanksgiving dinner, like with all of them coming to this one last dinner before they're all going to scatter and go to different places because Sid's going to decide she needs to leave, and
I
you
think that's a
know
great idea. So,
all this other stuff. That'd be perfect.
um, to your point of like, you know, not getting a lot of resolution. Again, I know that seems to be a point of frustration for a lot of people. You said you wanted to echo like, oh, the average viewer complaint seems to be, where's the plot? Like, what's going on with the restaurant? I need to know like certain like hard facts. And I guess my thing with all of those reactions is I was just like, that's never been the show. The show's always been so character driven. Like, do you remember when when I was first like raving about season one? It was probably like either around when it came out or it was on our year end episode when I had it as my number one or number two.
Hmm.
And I was saying, I was just like, there's so many places it could go. Like they haven't even gotten into like what happens when you have like a shitty customer. Like that could be a whole episode. And I'm thinking back to those moments just being like, dude, how naive I was in terms of like what the show was gonna be and be about and be focused on. And it's like, no, it's 100% this back of the house experience. It's about the staff and the people. And it's like, well, no, we're never gonna like there's never gonna
And
be, oh, we gotta deal with this table sort of thing. And I'm like, that's the thing. It's like it's not a plot driven show. It's not a situational show in that way. And the people looking for like those kind of normal TV tropes, I think that's what they're kind of like feel like is missing. And I feel like the frustration is like season two, for as heavy as things get in some of those flashbacks, they're building a restaurant. It's very exciting. They're like building towards that. And then you have Richie, like, dude, that whole arc of just like,
that
dude,
episode's the
fucking
best
like
episode of that season. Yeah,
it's the best episode of the series, in my
yeah, yeah.
opinion, still to this
Still,
point. And it's just like I think people were like came to maybe expect those big victory sort of moments. Those like again, the closest thing I think
hmm
we like when we talk about it, it's like it emotionally, the closest thing it's tied to is like Friday Night Lights, that where you're
yeah.
just like you're so fucking attached to the characters and like you know, every once in a while just really good things happen and like it lets good things happen to the characters and you're just like, oh, this is great. I'm happy. Uh and I think the season itself is that reality of that like people do get stuck in their ways. Like change is really fucking hard. People are stubborn. Making decisions for your life really fucking hard. Like the the whole element of Sydney basically being trapped between like my loyalty to this place and this guy whose food I fell in love with. Like, and dude, tying it all back to like where Carmi was
Oh,
in
dude,
his
that
life
episode, dude, that was
when
perfect.
she
That, yeah.
ultimately ate that food, like all of that. Uh, but being trapped between like again her loyalty to that, everything she's built there, but also like a more lucrative offer where she would have more of a financial stake and more creative control and not have to deal with the chaos of this dude, but also weighing like, but is he the one great, like the dude? Like, is
Well,
he the
according
best
to Joe
chef
McHale,
ever?
he is.
You know, exactly.
That
It's
was
like, and her
I love that
basically,
bit too.
her basically for the entire season going like, oh, I have a really tough decision to make. I'm just gonna fucking put that in the back seat. I was like, oh, I identify with that pretty hard, dude. And then like the Tina episode, dude, when she talks to Michael, and there's a great bit about I can't even remember all of it, but it's she's like, I don't need to change the world, blah blah blah. She's like, just give me a routine. I was like,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
I identify with that like hardcore,
Oh
hardcore.
dude, and then dude, my favorite thing is that he takes his phone out. He's like, "Look at that," and he shows her, and the what he says about his brother. I'm just like, if only Carmi could hear you say that about him,
Yeah.
because you were a shit to him, and you wouldn't let him work in your restaurant, and you didn't want to open your own restaurant with him. And so what did he do? He fucked off to become the best chef in the world, and he did. And you couldn't hack it? Is that why it's just like, but you were and then of course all the stuff he gives you of like, I don't like that you gotta bust your ass one day to pay for yesterday that's already been paid for. But every now and then fucking good shit happens here. And it's fun to come to work. And I'm like, that tells you everything you need to know about why that guy did what he did, owning a restaurant and like just being done with it. Like it is fucking chaos. And
Yeah.
I think it's this thing of like, everybody understands that experience from one side or the other, the front house or the back half of the house. So like I get it from going like everybody now who's seen this show, if they've never been in food service, they've never cooked for anybody, they've never worked in a kitchen, they know what it's like to sit out front and have that food brought to them. So everybody probably thinks now that like, oh, it's probably crazy like the bear back there, but then there's people like you who've worked in that adjacent, and you're like, I totally get the back half of this thing, you know. And at the end of the day, it's like it's there's all this put into this whole thing, and it's like I don't mean to sound pretentious, but it's just food.
Dude,
Like
100%. And I think
it's
that's
just food.
ultimately
But I
that
love
is
it.
simultaneously like the lesson and the curse of the show is like, dude, every time he sat there and made a plate and plated it and was just like, oh, it doesn't look perfect and fucking threw it in the trash. I'm sitting there just going like, dude, the food waste, the food cost on your uncle, like you piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like
There are homeless people out there
in
who were
in
fighting about
pursuit
sandwiches.
in pursuit of what? Because again, I was having this conversation with Brendan, like probably my personal best like food buddy. We've been to a lot of restaurants together. Like we like tried done a lot of different stuff. And I was like, dude, think about like all of the great meals you've ever had. And this is the most cliched thing ever, but I'm like, I can't tell you the dish. I can't actively remember the flavors or whatever, but I'll remember the evening. I'll remember the people, the environment, the atmosphere, the vibe, like all of that, like the fact that I had a good time. And you sit there and you're like, you sent your cousin, you sent Richie to like become a, the dude. He did. He like changed his whole fucking life to be the
He wears
best at
suits
this
now.
thing, to be the best at this thing for you. And then you go out of your way through again stubbornness and just pure selfishness to completely fuck him and everybody around you over by being like, I'm gonna change the menu every fucking day. And it's like, again, what's really gonna count is that experience that Richie's providing in the front of the house. If everybody had
Hmm.
a good time and the wine showed up to the table on time and like everything was flowing, everybody's vibing, the fact that like entrees were, 20 to 30 minutes apart, you're not going to remember that.
Hmm.
But it's like, but
But
he's
like,
so focused on it has to be the perfect bite of food and completely fucking over the front of the house, his cousin, etc. I'm just like, it, it, it drove me nuts because again, it's like everybody is trying to be here for you to help you do this, to help you execute on this. And you just cannot communicate to
dude, I
anybody what's
no, he
going on
can't.
in the chaos of your brain.
He can because there's that one moment he's like, "Am I fucking this up?" And he's like, "No, no, it's fine. It's just no, am I fucking everything up?" no, chef. He's talking to Ibram, I think is his name. Ibram. Where he's talking to the guy that does the
Yeah.
sandwiches in the back of the house, and he asked him like, "Am I fucking all this up?" Like he's just like, "Did I? Am I fucking everything up with this menu?" He's like, "No, chef, it's fine. I just need to get. We're out of C plates or whatever the hell they were." He's like, "Oh, okay." But like that's like in this weird moment of like, I'll bring it to him. But to your point, there is a line in the last episode. I don't know who says it, but they talk about like the first time that I called hands on a dish that I made, it was like the best and worst thing and whatever, whatever. And I'm like, that to me explains everything about him as far as like that's what it's all about. It's like it's gotta be something that when it goes out, it is like perfect because in the same scene, the same part of that episode, they talk about like, well, it's all about who works with you. Like they started the episode off of like this nice chef who was like, "Can I show you how to cook a turkey? Can I show you how to do this with the wishbone?" And then you've got Joe McHale who's like across the way from him,
I don't know
staring
if
him.
any I don't know if any of our listeners are in this pool, but I just laughed at myself because you're like this nice chef. That is for like foodies, that's Thomas Kessler. He's like one of the most like famous chefs on the face of the planet.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I thought that was funny. This nice chef like teacher. There were so
No, no, no,
many there. Sorry,
no.
continue. I was just
No, I was saying I figured everybody that was there was like a real chef from Chicago because if
oh yeah,
anything,
pretty
this
much
guy
out.
loves Chicago.
Not necessarily from Chicago, from literally all over the world. There's
Yeah.
di oh my gosh, I don't want to butcher people's names,
Yeah,
but
you
like
don't
the
have to because it's that's the whole point of it. Is it's like these are the fucking captains of industry. These are the best chefs in the world. Nobody fucking cares. Nobody knows that they are. Like real foodies do, right? But like people watching the show, like I don't know who that dude is. It's like this is one of the best chefs for this. Like okay, they got him to come here. I don't care. Like
right.
So I can appreciate from a narrative standpoint and a creation
Well,
like you know.
it's even baked into this season. The whole quote, another thing, dude. I know, I know you have to have had to have identified with this. I think it's like episode 2 or 3, or maybe it's in the montage in the first episode. I can't remember. But there's just a passing newspaper article, and we don't hear it referenced for a bit, but the initial announcement that Ever is closing.
Yeah,
Okay. And it's happening in the background as like he's trying to develop the menu. It might be episode 2. And that feeling of I've invested all this time. I finally got my shit together. I'm doing the thing I want to do. And I got to it way too fucking late. Like I just I just I missed the moment. That feeling of like, oh, is this sort of fine dining? Like, is this shit dying right now? Like, am I
right.
part of the death rattle? Or am I fighting a
Am I
like
gonna bring it
losing
back?
battle in doing all of this? And you're also sitting there going like, hey, they say the beef window is like doing really well. Like it's the only thing that's profitable in your entire restaurant. Like maybe go back to like making that because that seems to be like what fucking people want. Like
Hmm.
what are we doing here? Maybe go back to like a nice hybrid, a nice in between of like, hey, yeah, you come here, we're the Chicago beef, but we have specialty dishes that are like curated by, I don't know, Sydney, who curated a special dish off menu in the first season that became a whole fucking sensation that paved the way for any of this shit to happen in the fucking first place. And she gets no fucking credit whatsoever. I hope she does ditch the bear, and I know it will hurt and suck, but I hope she does ditch the bear in season 4. And we have like this divergent
No,
narrative,
dude.
and
No, no, no,
Carmi
dude.
has
It's
to
gonna be
realize that he fucked everything up and he pushed
no, no,
everybody away.
no. That's gonna be the thing. It's that, and when she bring no, this is because he's had this confrontation with Mikhail, and Mikhail was like, "You were a good chef. You came to me, and now you're a great chef. You should be thanking me." And perfect Joe Mc, I loved that interaction. That he was
Oh,
like,
it's great,
"You,
great scene. Great scene.
it's so fucking perfect." But like with that knowledge, moving forward, I think when Sydney eventually is like, "I'm leaving," Carmi's gonna realize that it's like if I go off on her and I do this thing to her, I'm going to be no better than that guy who like told me I was shit every time. I made a dish and he changed it. He made it known like, well, this is gonna be my dish now because I just you fucked up and I helped you. You know, like if I go off on her right now, I'm gonna be no better than that dude. And this is just gonna cause her to have all the anxiety and all this fucked up shit that I have. It's just gonna cause that to be worse in her. So you know what? I'm gonna be the better person, the better leader, and tell her, I think that's great. I think you should go. You know, I can't give you everything that this place can. And good luck, chef. You know. But then he secretly like sets out to try and like destroy whatever thing they're gonna start, and it becomes this huge competition for like 2 episodes, and then they have like a Thanksgiving dinner for the finale, and they all come to terms. It's all fine. I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah, no,
but
I
that's,
get
I
it.
mean, that is what I loved about the McHale scene is like, you hope at least, you hope that he takes away the right lesson from it. And it's this moment of realization of like, oh shit, in the pursuit of like becoming the best, thinking that like this is how I had to, like, I, I became the dude that caused all of this, trauma to me. I'm now that person to my entire staff and everybody around me. Like the way he's treating Tina throughout the season. Though again, the way he's treating everybody directly or not by the whole like everybody's operating on my whim. I'm changing the menu every day. Like anytime Sydney makes a suggestion, it's like, nope, I'm gonna tweak it half a notch to the left or right. And now it's my thing. It's not her thing anymore. And it's just like over and over again there's that moment like in the penultimate where he has a moment to literally all she wants is like, dude, if you just say sorry like out loud in this moment, doesn't even have to be any more detailed than that. I will literally fucking tell that dude from the other restaurant I made a huge mistake and I'm sorry. I'm staying with the bear. Like, in that moment, that's all she needs to hear is like, dude, just say sorry. Like,
Hmm.
literally, just fucking say the words and he can't fucking do it. And you're just like, what is this block, man? Like, just say it. Just fucking say it. It's so frustrating. You just hit the absolute inability of him to get out of his own way, to just make things a little less hard on himself. You're just like, dude, you are truly your own worst enemy, dude. Like,
It's because he's not at peace, bro. And Claire is the peace.
okay,
That's what it is.
let's transition to that for a moment as we transition into my quibbles, the things that for me personally take it down just a slight notch from season two, and maybe a slight notch from season one as well. But I will also just to reiterate, a slightly lesser than season of The Bear, in my personal opinion, is still better than about 99% of television. So, with that said,
Are these your haunts? These are your haunts for this season?
these are
You
my haunts. Dude, you're giving me so many perfect segues. Okay. You mentioned Claire Bear.
Yeah.
Big thing this I'm not saying this cannot be redeemed for season four. I need Claire to become an actual three-dimensional human being with thoughts, feelings, dialogue, and scenes. Because at this point, to me, she just exists like in Carmi's memory as this idealized, like they talk about her a fuck of a lot. But if you want me to be so emotionally invested in like she is like art, is he gonna get it together? Is he gonna make up with her? All of that shit. I know season two, like that was the introduction of her, and we got a lot of, they had great chemistry. They had great scenes together. A lot of the legwork is done there. But I felt like this season, when they do lean on like is he gonna do something about this? I almost was like, dude, give me like a fucking 10-minute flashback or something to like them in high school or like right out of college or whatever. Like give me a little bit more context for like why is she the one? Why is she the piece beyond just like I've known her so long, I've had this relationship with her. I don't feel like they've really established Claire as a character. You know what I mean? In the way that they have with a lot of other people. So and again, you're juggling a huge ensemble. I get it. My other quibble, my other haunt, as you mentioned. Children is a perfectly fine, fun episode. Brother, I got a lot of time for Mr. John Cena. I enjoy him. I enjoy him. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I am a
Uh-huh.
fan. Love when he pops up and stuff.
Hmm.
This was just a little too cute by half. Fucking totally took me out of the show, and I was just like, "This feels like a cameo. This is the first time in a sea of you guys having amazing cameos by people who just seamlessly blend into the world. This was the first time where I was like, there's no fucking way John
He's a fact.
Cena is a
Is a
fact.
fact.
He doesn't exist in this family, in this world. Like this is just it's a cameo. They like him. They thought it would be fun to bring him in. He's in way too much of the episode. They lean on that scene way too hard. And I was just like, guys, it's just too much. It's just a little too much. I love him. He's great. I still laughed at it while also being like, you guys kind of broke the reality of the show for like 10 minutes. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? This was weird. And again, the Thanksgiving episode, Odenkirk, Sarah Paulson, John Mulaney, fucking Jamie Lee Curtis. And I'm just like, and I bought it. Like every one of them just is like, yeah, this is this family. This makes 100% sense. Like,
To the point that
absolutely.
I forgot Mulaney was even a part of this until I realized like, oh yeah, he Carmi was crashing with him in New York.
He just
And
comes
then
up and tells him he smells bad. It's literally
yeah,
like
he
one
puts a
scene.
blanket over him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, bro, he was yeah, I forgot Mulaney was in this show already at least once. It just didn't dawn on me. I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Not that
But
he's not, I mean, he's good in the
again,
episode, but still, yeah.
and again, like I said, I laughed at the Cena character. I laughed at but again, I was like, dude, the Fack brothers, like, or the cousins, like Maddie and whoever the other new guy is, like, I I was enjoying them so much this season already. I was like, you guys didn't need to do any more. You didn't need to
I
like
just I love
escalate
like
it.
I
I
love him
just
talking about like, "Oh, what are you smoking it for?" Well, I saw him do it, so I got confidence. That's why I That's so fucking stupid.
Dude, again, I'm laughing. I'm
That's so
laughing at
good.
all of it, but it was a little much. It was a little like, guys,
Do you want me can I
let's
tell you
let's be
my favorite
careful.
with
Let's be
them?
careful about these cameos. Like, let's not have Brad Pitt showing up in the next season.
Right.
Like that
Right.
works in the world of Dave.
Of
That doesn't
course.
work
Because
over
he's
on the
playing
bear.
himself. Yeah. No, so my favorite with them, this is super, it's probably super cheesy, but my favorite with the two of them is at the end of the Ice Chips episode where they come in and sit down
Oh,
and he's
dude.
just like, "You're a grandma now." And he just gives her a little kiss on the forehead. I'm like, this fucking, this is my favorite episode. I don't know why. It's just, it's
Oh, dude,
so,
when she goes out to the waiting room and like lets them have their moment, oh,
hmm
I was
yeah,
right there, man, dude.
hmm
Yeah, all the feels.
yeah.
JL, JLC probably gonna take home another Emmy for that episode.
Just Shen fucking well deserved. And I sent you the video. I swear to God. My man has never seen Jamie Lee Curtis on screen ever, and he's sitting in his chair on the floor, and she starts talking, and he looks up, and he just starts going off, and I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I had the same problem the first time I saw her.
You
It
got
was like it was Halloween, but it was Halloween. It was like when she was 40 years younger,
you gotta
but
sh
like I had the same problem when I saw her the first
bro,
time on screen, buddy.
you gotta show him Trading Places and you gotta show him True Lies, like while he's still in the milk drinking phase.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that
definitely.
blow his little mind.
Yeah,
Blow his little mind.
of
Um
course.
uh But yeah, those were
Yeah.
my only, again, the minorest of quibbles. But yeah, just make Claire a little bit more of a character and maybe not go as broad as Cena. I thought he was good in the show, though, at the same time. Again, like, I can't help but enjoy him, but it was
Yeah.
a little much. It was a little much. Uh, any other kind of overall thoughts? Like I said,
I do like that they so because this is I mean maybe this is a misconception but like and maybe we've seen it before and like this time was just not like a not as big of a deal but I do like that the end of the whatever the restaurant is and chef tells them I want to go to a party and all this they go party after the closing of that restaurant.
yeah,
And like I've always heard that that's a huge thing with like wait staff, front and back staff, part of that. They all usually will go out at the end of the night, whatever night it is, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and they'll all drink just to be like, okay, we're done with that fucking shift. So for it to be like I like the idea that I've never seen that when
that's
like
kind of,
apparently that's a huge thing with the like the that world.
It
Maybe
kind of
not so
hammers
much the
home,
chefs.
kind of hammers home my point I was trying to make earlier too, dude, is I'm just like, to me, those characters, they're not gonna remember any of the like any of what they ate at ever that night. What they're gonna remember is the like ego fucking
Yo,
things
yeah, the
that she
shit she
cooked
made.
up
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
apartment while they're partying and dancing and drinking like later that night. Like that's the thing they're gonna remember from that
Okay,
night.
and
And I felt like it's a further reinforcement of it's just like it's the people, it's the camaraderie, it's the like that's why somebody will show up at a job that they fucking like fundamentally hate on a lot of levels, like to echo Bernthal's thing where it's like, but every once in a while, like something really fucking cool happens, or you have like a great moment, and you're like, oh, that kind of made it all worth it. Uh, yeah,
what did you think? One last question.
yeah.
Will Richie or will Richie not show up to Josh Hartnett's wedding? What did you think of Josh Hartnett
So
and the little scene he was in?
just a
And
pure, just pure.
fucking perfect.
I was gonna say the absolute nightmare, right? Though is
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
wife's getting remarried. My ex-wife is getting remarried to Josh
Josh
Hartnett.
Hart.
Like, come on, bro.
Fuck.
Fuck me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect casting on that level alone. And then to top it off, it's like he seems like he's probably a decent guy.
He's so
Oh,
fucking cool,
fuck.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We absolutely need that episode. We need that
I
wedding
love
episode. It's a dangling
maybe oh
thread.
maybe that's maybe dude, that's the finale. Is that wedding. Everybody comes together for that wedding.
I feel like the timeline window is like closing. Like the wedding needs to be like the opening of season
That
four.
okay, yeah, let's do that. Wedding is the opening of season 4.
But I definitely, again, in the move to like I liked going a little bit deeper with Marcus. We get the funeral episode, the eulogy, going deeper with Tina. We do lose, a little bit of, but it's like, but Richie had his fucking episode. He had his moment in season
Hmm.
two, you know. But I do feel like there wasn't, I could have used more Richie. I definitely could have used more Richie. But when I sit there and also think about it, I'm like, dude, Carmi is not like at the center of it all, really. Like just screen time wise in general, it's like it was the most ensemble-y season thus far to me, where we're moving beyond. It's like it's not strictly the Carmi show. I'm not watching it in a traditional like hero's narrative sort of way of like, you know, I hope he gets it. I hope he succeeds. I'm more rooting for like I hope, Sid and Marcus and all them are okay. And I hope Carmi like learns to be a better functional human being and like stop beating himself up and maybe like treat the people around him better.
Yeah.
But I don't
Because I
know if
mean,
I don't know if like him becoming the best chef in the world is like what we should be rooting for him. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I don't know. I'm gonna let this little girl out of the room and I will be right back. Hold on, Phoebe.
yeah. And I mean, I definitely think that regardless, leaving it where they left it as there being like a big cliffhanger because we have it set up that Uncle Oliver Platt is like, if you don't get a good review, I'm gonna have to pull the plug on you. So leaving it with like to be continued over was that review good or bad? Obviously, why would he yell fuck if it was a great review? It's got to be a bad review. And we've seen splashes of reviews in quick cut succession of like, is the
Well,
bear beef good? Oh, we don't know what we're doing.
remember that it doesn't fucking matter regardless because Cicero doesn't have any money anyways.
Oh, really?
The uncle. Yeah.
Oh, he's out. He's lost everything?
No, no, no. That was the whole bit with Oliver Platt is like he goes back out and Computer, one of my other new favorite characters,
Oh, yeah.
tells him, "Did you tell him? Like, did you tell him the truth?" Because he tells him in that scene, he's like, "If the review isn't good, I got to pull the plug." And he goes out to the car and Computer says to him, he's like, "Did you tell him?" He's like, "Nah, he'll figure out." He's like, "Nah, couldn't quite tell." He's like, "Just tell him the truth, man. Tell him you don't have anything." Like he doesn't have enough to keep it going, even if the review is good, is basically what he
Hmm.
was saying. Like they're fucked regardless, but he didn't want to tell him. So he's hoping that it's a bad review so he can have this as a like, an
Oh,
excuse
I
to
got to
not
shut you
have to
down.
actually, yeah. Again, remember, I
You
don't
could
know
take
how
it.
all of this got
No,
sorted
you could
out,
take,
but
dude.
again, the tomato cans from the end of the first season, that's his money that
Right.
Mikey took from him and basically then gave to Carmi to then re-give to him as seed money for what ultimately became the bear. Uh,
No, I was just saying you could take it back to the boys and be like, "We're canceling this restaurant. We figured we could make more on the write-off." I love that bit after A Train leaves and they're like, "Oh, we're canceling him. He's done. We're done with this
The
movie."
Will Ferrell
Wolf.
movie. We forgot
Oh
to
yeah,
mention that. Yeah.
yeah, he was great in that in those cameos. But yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. I didn't. Okay, I didn't take that as like I didn't realize that's him saying I don't have any money. I knew they were up against it. A new computer
No,
was like,
I
"You
thought that was
got."
very telling, and that was the like, oh shit, it's like it doesn't matter. We've been worried about like all, this thing, but it's like, dude, the the restaurant as we know it, like, is not sustainable. And it hasn't been because again, he's doing shit like making five plates of the same dish and throwing it all out in a practice session, essentially. They're not even
Mhm.
open. You're like, dude, yeah, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
on the whole, like, is Chicago known for like its restaurants, like world
Oh, it's a
renowned restaurants?
food city.
More than say like New York or Los Angeles or like
Not
another big
more
metropolitan.
not more so, but
Right.
on the level of
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would say it's like a top five in the US,
Okay. It's one of those where I'm like, I don't
like
when
food
you talk of
destination cities, like
yeah,
absolutely.
when you talk about that, I'm like, it's pizza. It's just a Chicago deep dish pizza is what you need to do. So maybe, they transition into some of that. I would watch that. I'm just kidding.
I just don't know
But
why they don't just make like the coolest, most high-end, like sexy ass beef shop ever. Like,
yeah.
it can be just like traditional Italian beef, but like just fucking make it cool, make it interesting, whatever.
Yeah, no,
Make
do
it
the whole
profitable as fuck.
ambiance. No, make the thing that you have. Make it as nice and neat as that, but you're just serving piece of shit loose meat sandwiches, a la the Lanford lunchbox. You just have all
That,
that in there. It'd be
dude,
perfect.
that's all they should have been aspiring to this whole time was the Lanford lunchbox, the finest cuisine. Uh, okay, but yeah, the bear still continues to be pretty excellent. I can go ahead and spoil. It's not my number. It's not going to be my number one show this year. Uh, but I had a great time with it.
Oh, good.
Okay, let's chat. How long did it take you?
A day, a couple hours.
Same. Yeah,
Yeah,
I kind
yeah.
of I took a few breaks in between there, but
Literally all
it
of
was
yesterday.
it was
That's about
basically an
it.
afternoon on
Yeah.
Thursday, or on
Mhm.
Friday rather. Uh, how we feeling, man?
I mean,
There was some feeling at the end of five where it was like, this is a great note to end on.
mhm.
But I could give you guys have bought enough, like, enough, space in my heart. I'd give you one more season. You want one more season? Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I throw this on and I'm like, all right, man. Like, we know we know this show. We know the vibes. We know the beats. Like, it's kind of those same sort of feelings with the boys where it's like, dude, have I mainly have I kind of maybe seen this all before? And I feel like I think it was before like they hit credits on the end of the first episode. I don't even remember what the moment was, but I was like on the fucking verge of tears again. I was like, God damn it, they did it again. I don't know
Yeah,
what to
dude,
tell you.
totally.
I just
Totally.
it's
Oh,
fun.
you know what it was? You know what it was? It was maybe this isn't first episode, maybe this isn't second episode, but when Robbie jumps in front of him at the arcade and says, "Oh, I don't do it, don't do it, don't shoot," I I died, and Becky was like, "What's that?" I was like,
Oh,
"Daniel
that
did
was
the
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah,
in
yeah.
the original,"
That was
and that
I
was that the
think
first episode or second episode. I can't remember what it carried in, but that's when I was like, "This fucking show." Becky has always talked about how like she loves that it's the same people this far removed and just how the nostalgia comes in. And she wasn't really big into the movies as a kid like we were, but she knows them. And she's like, see, that's why I want to watch with you because you can tell me these things and I can understand them. And I'm like, yeah, would the casual fan see that and think, oh, that's funny. Or would the diehard family be like, oh my God, he's doing the same thing LaRusso did to try and win Allie back in the first one? Like whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Now it leads to like two girls and two dudes. It leads to four white children beating up two black children in the batting cages. But
Dude,
you
okay,
know,
perfect example. This show constantly like plays with fire and then somehow manages to just like dance through the flames. They do that whole scene where they set up that like Robbie has to like he's trying to win Kenny back and like, hey, come back over with us. Like, let's let bygones be bygones from the previous season. I'm trying to look out for you. Meanwhile, the kid's older brother, who's out of juvie, Sean, is present, and I'm like, are you really trying to big brother this kid in front of his actual brother? Like, what are we? And then it escalates to a fight, right? And then we go to the scene with Kenny in his backyard, and he's beating the shit out of a dummy bag or whatever, and his brother comes up to him, and I'm like, oh, dude, are we going down some like he's gonna like oh yeah, you want to really
dark
get
vengeance
back at him?
path.
And
Yeah.
it's like, no, he has a logical adult conversation with his younger brother and is like, hey man, like I really think it would probably be best if like if you're gonna continue to pursue karate, like they kind of seem to be like the right way to do it. So maybe you should go. And it's like, and by the end of the episode, he goes and goes back with Miyagi-Do. And it's just like, dude, that is the kind of shit where in the first couple seasons we would talk about like, oh dude, they do a lot of these like arbitrary misunderstandings where it's like, oh, if the characters could just talk for 5 minutes, there'd be no need for fighting. But it escalates and like eventually they talk it out, they settle their differences. But to the point of like we did all of this, like Robbie and Miguel like got to settle their shit and now they're buds. And like
Hmm.
we talked about this a little bit in season 5. It's like once they kind it's you know what it is? It's the most TV ass shit ever that nobody does anymore. It's the
Hmm.
kind of stuff that like the people who are complaining about there not being enough plot on the bear is like, okay, fucking watch Cobra Kai, dude. Literally, like moment to moment, they will explain to you every single character motivation and why they're doing it. And it's like, but it works, dude. It sticks to its guns when they set these things of just like, oh, we're buddies now. They don't all of a sudden just like undo it just for plot's sake. It's like they'll have a scene come up where they do the whole fucking thing, the sleepover, where Johnny's trying to get Sam and
Yeah, I'm a girl
Tori
dad now.
to like be mad at each other.
Yeah.
And and it's like the show acknowledges how ridiculous it is and how transparent it would be to the characters. Like it's playing with the comedy of it, but it's like the show is also self-aware and testing it at the moment. And it's like, and what do? They talk through their problems. Like there's actual character growth over the course of these seasons. Like you can
Hmm.
see the experiences that these kids have had. And you know how you can see them? Because before any decision that they're going to make, they will flash back to every single one of them from a previous season
Yes.
just to give you
Yes.
clarity. It's like, dude, you don't need to rewatch the show. They will just literally like give you everything. And I love it, man. I love it.
Why? Because this is a series that is built on flashbacks. The second movie starts at the end of the first movie, like any good
Dude,
80s movie should. The third movie,
when they,
even though it's 4 years removed or something like that, it starts at the end of the second
okay,
movie when they
I
come home from the
remember,
airport. It's so easy.
I remember the moment that made me cry. I think it is the end of the first episode. And it's Johnny again, who I was like, dude, are we really gonna have them at odds again over like over Eagle Fang and the name? Like,
Mhm.
dude, Chosen just being like, but Eagle Fang is stupid. Like some of his deliveries this season absolutely crushed me. Uh, but yeah, where I'm in my head, I'm just like, dude, are we really gonna have a fight over the name, blah blah blah? And he uh he has the moment out in the woods with Stingray where he's like, "You got to take the Cobra Kai name back," and I'm like, "Oh, dude, he's gonna learn the wrong lesson." I'm like, "Or is this where we're going? Like, it's gonna be Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do again?" And then no, he comes back to Daniel and he's like, oh yeah, I don't like that's John Kreese's legacy. I don't want anything to do with that. So Miyagi-Do is fine. I want to like honor your master's legacy. And I was like, dude, oh they worked it out. Like they figured it out. They've grown. They're not falling into the same traps of just like, oh, we gotta be at odds with each other. And I love it, man. I like that they're buds now and they give each other shit and they're still ribbing. And again, by the end of this part one, there's the whole like after the Sekai Taikai, we're done. We're finished. Like, and I knew obviously we were gonna get to that moment, but they will be friends by the end of this, god damn it.
Of
You
course.
bet your bottom dollar. They will be friends by the end of this. Another lingering thread. I didn't look. I didn't know if there was a post-credit scene. No Terry, right?
No.
The Terry shoe still has to drop. They can't just they, he's got to be back for part two, right? Come on,
I think that's Mike Barnes' redemption, dude, because Barnes just says
dude.
he's been looking for a
When
fight,
they
and
okay,
it's like that's gonna be the only way he's gonna get some is if he can go fuck Terry Silver up and be done with it.
okay, because
Like,
Chosen fought him, dude. Daniel fought him, which again, I think that might be my single favorite fight in the series. Is the end of
oh yeah,
five. Like
totally.
I'd been waiting to see that like since fucking
Yeah,
part three, man. That's all I'd
yeah.
ever wanted. But dude, when
Oh
they
my,
were
oh,
like, we
okay.
need a
Real
judge,
quick,
when
real
we
quick.
need an impartial judge for the Sakai Taikai, like choosing who are going to be our eight, and we bring in Karate's bad boy.
Bad boy. Yes, dude. Real quick, I have to mention this because
Oh
it blew my
yes,
fucking
please.
mind. When we talked about Terry Silver and we went down a little bit of a Tig rabbit hole, we talked about that Cracker Jack movie, right? It's like Die Hard at a fucking
Yeah, yeah.
like ski
Ski
resort.
resort. Yeah.
Okay. Axel F comes out. I watch it. I'm like, what the hell's Judge Reinhold been up to? I look. He is in Cracker Jack 2 as Tig's character. I shit you
I
not.
mean,
I've got to find it.
he
I'm going to
does look
find it
like him.
somewhere. But I'm like, how the hell did I not know this? Because Becky was like, well, Judge Reinhold's not in the movie at all. Cause like, I guess I was like, well, yeah, it's like two. Like he was, it's like, he'll be a badass at the end or whatever. But I started thinking, well, yeah, Judge Reinhold kind of wasn't in the movie. Where was he been? Oh, okay. Well, apparently he says after Vice Versa came out, which I didn't know there was a Kirk Cameron body switch movie with Dudley Moore the year before, and that came out. Vice Versa comes out, doesn't do that well. Judge Reinhold really isn't in movies anymore, but he does a direct-to-video sequel of Cracker Jack, starring Thomas Ian
We
Griffin,
got to do it.
same character, dude. I gotta find it.
We
It's
got to do it.
somewhere.
Two by
That
two.
and
We got to
dude, I'll
find.
find it. But anyway, I had to tell you that when we were talking about Terry Silver, it just flashed back in my mind. But
Yeah,
yes,
it occurred to me. I was like, oh, we didn't tease anything of what's going on with him, but it's like, dude, he's gotta he's gotta be back. He's gotta be
yeah.
back in part two.
Who do
Okay.
you think's funding this whole thing?
So
The psychi. It's all
well,
Terry
and
Silver.
I should say we did get a taste of him just by we got our very brief what I was I literally when he goes in dude when Kreese goes into the Empire Strikes Back cave to confront the White Snake
Yes.
and has what I was like, dude, are we going into a Nom flashback? And then he realizes that the the thing he needs to overcome, his true adversary, is his love for Johnny Lawrence, and he must fight him and let go of it. I'm, dude, I love that we have built dude, there was a fucking Empire Strikes Back cave. There was a Dagobah cave
Hmm.
in Cobra Kai. I
Yeah.
could not have been, dude, I was like levitating, dude. He comes out and he's like, "You eliminate the obstacle." I was like, "Yeah, he killed the snake." I was like, "Obviously," but it was so
It's not
fucking
about the prize. It's
badass, dude.
about eliminating the obstacle. He just throws the snake head down. Like, oh shit.
And again, building in, I love when they retroactively build in backstory where it's like, we had that chick all of last season, and I was like, "Oh, that's Terry's right-hand girl." Like, okay, cool. And then it's like, no, that's Crease's, like, has known her since she was a child. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool. The like
But like, wait a minute,
old
hold on. That's not his child. I took that like I get that it was the sensei's granddaughter, but I took it as like, oh no, he definitely like fathered a child while he was in country, and he's coming back to check on her.
Oh, I didn't take that at all. It was just
Okay, that's
like
what I
I
did.
knew her. Oh no, it was just yeah.
So maybe he's Tori's
He's
real
going back
dad.
to we still have had that lingering where we said
Dude,
that
maybe it
or
is. Maybe it
yeah,
is.
dude.
That
the
was that,
the
yeah.
Tori mom stuff again, she obviously it's like I don't even know if they ever had a scene with like the mom as a speaking role, but still
The
like
flashback was pretty good. It made sense.
yeah, dude. It was again, I love introducing flashback as motivation 5 minutes before we need it to activate for a character. I love it, dude. I'm not like I know it sounds like I'm talking shit. I am so not. I love
No.
everything about how this show approaches its emotional storytelling. It fucking it works, dude. Dude. Uh Other highlights this of this chunk.
Um,
I just thought again, I
the
thought
the
the
emergence the emergence of what is it, the girl, the other girl that's on the team now,
Devin.
and I forgot that Devin was a part of
Oh,
like
dude, the
that
whole
group.
dude, so that is interesting. So I loved the whole buildup of like, okay, Johnny's taking a liking to her. She's kind of like, she's in the Miguel position of season one, and it's cool to have another like girl that's not just Tori and Sam that we can kind of focus it because I still don't know what happened to Aisha. Like, I
She
assume
moved
that
away.
yeah, I assume the actress like, just moved on to something else or maybe didn't want to be in stuff anymore. Who knows? But um, she's one of the few that seems like she should kind of just disappear. Uh, so it's cool on that level, but then they actually like do some interesting character shit with her, dude, where I'm like, she it worked on me. And this stuff so rarely works on me, but they do the obvious play of like, okay, we're down to uh we got to determine our last two slots, and they do the capture the flag thing out in the
Hmm.
woods. And Penny's water gets sabotaged, and of course, you naturally assume it's LaRusso's kid because they've been at odds the whole season and in seasons past. And it's shot in such a way where you're like, oh yeah, he totally did it to like help out and like, give her a shot. And you're like, oh, okay, kind of a shitty move, kid, but like, I'm glad it's going to work out this way. And then the reveal that she's the one who did it and that
Oh yeah.
like and then that Kenny figures it out after the fact and that she's going into the tournament and we know that she's actually probably not the best shot overall and her dealing with like, oh, I have to live up to it now. That's some compelling fucking drama for a character that we only met last season. I'm just
Wait, so we wait a minute. Kenny knows that it was her that did it, or Kenny assumes that I thought
yeah,
Kenny
yeah, yeah,
assumed
yeah,
Kenny
yeah.
said it was because he said the worst line. I'm like, Lapusso, like, come on, dude. That's like just lazy writing. Like, like, why did I don't know. I don't know why he said it again. I get he was like mad and all that, but like it's one of those where I'm like, okay, it's what you're talking about earlier. Oh, if they could just talk, if she could just tell him, like, I'm sorry, I had to sabotage you because I really got to prove my worth because I was on that other team last year and we were ready to go. And like, it was all a lie. Like, Silver paid for, our karate school to win. And like, I want to like
No,
show that
but
I'm good
was
at
there,
this.
sorry, and again, it was a binge, but no, was there not a beat with him afterwards where he realized and
I
she
don't
knew
think
that he
so.
knew? Okay.
No, he was just like, it was him. And she just had this thing of like, oh God, I'm like, I know their history because he had just knocked LaRusso out like during practice to get to that spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he fought him and like knocked
Also, that
Anthony out or
whole that
whatever.
whole ribbon exercise, I was like, I think Anthony won that. Like he had
Yeah.
so many stuffed inside. I was like, and then yet at the end, people are holding up handfuls. I'm like, there's no way there were that many ribbons on the kit. Like I don't know how this works.
Dude, that's a secret of the use homage. That's all that. This many will do, Kino? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
sure. But yeah, no, that it to me it was played as like she did it. You think it's LaRusso who did it because you
Right.
only see that he knows.
We know that she sabotaged it. But for some reason I thought we had a quick scene where he knew now, but he wasn't going to say anything or something like that.
Yeah, he knew it was LaRusso. He thinks it's LaRusso that did
Okay.
it, but because LaRusso didn't get picked either, he says his like not like his dad's gonna believe it anyway, you know?
Right.
So it's like,
Again,
he's
her
just letting it
that's right.
go.
excuse me. No, that's the whole thing. Her anxiety is, oh, are you gonna tell the sensei in terms of like, hey, I didn't actually get this, like it was sabotage, like, maybe it should be your slot. Yes, okay. So that is still dangling that she
He'll want
sabotaged it.
revenge.
We
She
know
sabotaged,
he wants
but
revenge,
he'll
but
want revenge
again,
on
she
Anthony.
also now, has to prove herself for having taken the slot. And if she fucks up or loses her match, like the guilt, the possible
Hmm.
guilt, just very
Well, it's going to
interesting.
be her. It's going to be her and Tori figuring out what female would have to fight at the end,
Well, you,
because it's like whoever the captain is going to be like fighting if they make it to the end. You know what I mean? Because their
well,
whole
no,
deal was like that the team captains, boy and girl, would have to fight in the final rounds if they made it there.
yeah.
Well, now
So it
that
would
it's
be
just
Sam. It'll be Sam
or Sam
regardless,
or
and
her. That's what I'm saying. So like now you have that conflict of like, do we want Sam to fight Tori or do we want this girl to fight Tori? Is Sam going to be
oh
like, you know what,
yeah,
I
because
can't
she,
fight? Sam going to be like, I'm not going to fight my friend. Like, I'm good. We're good. If you want to fight her, you go ahead. That'll prove that you're better. You know,
dude, there's some
there's so
definitely
much
some
conflict in there.
interesting angle for bouts. And
Fucking
then
great writing, if you ask me.
I will also say Miguel losing, I think is maybe I always butcher his name. Sholos, I think maybe best acting to date on the show is his reaction after he loses to Robbie. And there's the like no hard feelings moment and he's playing on his face that like they're cool. I think they're still cool, but this is like fucking killing him on the inside because they had built dude, I love how they built in again the motivations for everybody leading into that captain's fight essentially of like Robbie, it's like, oh dude, this is like my last shot at like doing something because I'm not gonna go to college, blah blah blah.
Same with
And
Tori.
yeah, and Miguel is like, "Oh, I need this to like look good for Stanford, so I don't have to go to community college, like blah blah blah, all of that stuff." Uh, yeah, you're like you don't want anybody to have to lose, and that is the best place to be in terms of writing, where you're just like, "Oh, I'm yeah. No matter how this ends, it sucks for somebody, and I'm emotionally invested in both sides of it. That's a good place to be, man. And
Hmm.
they continue to do it over and over and over again, and I haven't gotten tired of it yet. Uh,
What did you think about the Mr. Miyagi might have been a bad dude and
so I think the
Keith?
ultimate
Keith has to tell us that. Keith has to tell us all
Oh yeah. I mean,
that.
enjoyed his cameo.
Of
Here's my,
course.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it out loud just because I feel like we need to say this. I don't think what we're ultimately building to with that whole thread is kind of where we left it in this season, which is the like making peace with the past and like maybe, and you could look at it generously as it exists now as like, well, we've shown, kids who were bad become good and like good become bad, villainous, we played around with all the shades of gray, if you will. So maybe it makes sense to kind of introduce that to like maybe Miyagi's not the infallible like dude we always presented him as, like show some humanity to him, blah blah blah. Nah, we're not rewriting the canon. We're not rewriting the canon of Miyagi. The ultimate reveal will of course be that the robbery, okay, that he took part in was to steal a particular necklace that already belonged to him or had been taken and belonged to his wife, his long lost love, whatever, back in Japan. And now that Chosen is back there already, right now,
He'll discover that
something
secret
something
back
will
there.
be
Yeah, yeah.
tied in with
Hmm.
Girl from Part Two,
Kamiko.
Kumiko. Something will be tied in. She'll have a piece of info. They'll go on a little like 5 minute adventure within an episode. We'll get clarity on that. It will bring Danielson the final closure of like, no, Miyagi is always the guy you thought he was. He always did the right thing. This was a misunderstanding. You
And the
didn't get it.
only
I
but
guarantee you,
and it will be
they
it will
will
be
not leave it at he may have been a robber and a bad guy for two
oh, of course.
seconds and
But
people have to mention.
they're gonna bookend it with, and oh yeah, by the way, Daniel San, after he left you and after he did what he did with you and you went to college and started doing your thing, he came back east and he helped a friend, an old war buddy. He helped his wife and granddaughter that were in need. And here she is to tell you, Daniel, it's okay. Mr. Miyagi was a great man.
I was gonna
This was
say
just all a
maybe
misunderstanding. And Hillary Swank shows up.
maybe it is Julie that has the information ultimately that clears
Exactly.
him,
And
and
she
what a
just
perfect like bookend to like
and
tie in, bring all
she's
four
just
together. Like
she's just doing like some bird conservation shit on the Isle of Okinawa,
oh,
looking after hawks and eagles and stuff.
I was gonna say she has like an all female monk dojo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are there female monks? Is that a thing?
Eric's just out there working those bullet trains, bro. He's just riding the rails on bullet trains, just
And dude,
working
I
them.
mean, if they really wanted to go for it, you get
Ironside is the big
you get
bad in
re
the entire end.
no, I was gonna say
Yeah.
you get redeemed Ironside and Goggins on her team, like fighting for her
Yeah.
squad.
Yeah,
I
totally.
wanted to clarify something about the Sakai Taikai because I was wondering this going in. They're like, it's the best fighters in the world, and I was like, is there an age range? Like, are we going to have
The masters have to fight. Yeah, the senseis have to fight.
children fighting? Like, oh yeah, that was my other question. Is like, yeah, do the representative dojos like, yeah, is Kreese gonna have to fight Johnny and or, I mean, obviously the Daniel fight wouldn't really make any sense. Is Kreese gonna have to fight Johnny in this?
Yeah, but Daniel's never
Is
had a
that
chance to
part of
fight
it?
Kreese. Well, together they have.
They've done
All I
some,
do know,
they've traded some
all
blows.
all I want to know is, could we not have picked a country that had a non-extradition treaty with the US? Because Spain will totally deport, like, you know, felons. But again, he really didn't do the crime. Like, he's guilty of running away from prison after being falsely accused and falsely imprisoned. So is it a wash, or is he still a fugitive? Because it's like by now we know, oh no, that was a whole like Stingray, that was a whole thing.
He's been back in LA for a minute while he's like bumming.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Or that was
Uh,
Terry's last thing for him, is Terry just had to make it all go away. But no one knows that it's all going away. So they're all like, oh my God, Crease. It's like he's no one's gonna, like, you need to fight him because the law's not gonna come take him away. He was an innocent man convicted for no reason whatsoever.
well, uh, it is nearing 1 a.m. and I do
Oh
have to
shit.
work tomorrow.
I still
Uh,
gotta go wash bottles and clean up the kitchen.
uh, but yeah, it was great catching up.
Yeah.
We haven't, I've got plenty of movies to chat about, seen a lot of stuff in the theaters
Yeah, let's
and
do that next weekend.
a lot of stuff to catch up uh, on VOD, etc. Uh, yeah, until next time, I have been Noah.
And I have been Gavin.
We've been the Blanchard brothers, and you've been listening to what we've been watching. Thank you for anybody who is actually listening right now. I know we take huge gaps in between episodes. We do this for the love of the game, and anybody who actually still sticks with us at this point when a new episode
And
drops, and there's always a handful of you, the
mhm.
diehards. We do really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so
and
much.
I'm glad we can still do this because I want there to be like a semi bit of a record about like Mav and what's going on with him now, because I read somewhere
Oh,
the other day this guy
absolutely.
was
It's
like,
just as I think we've tried to make clear for people, basically, like we're still very much invested in doing this, but it'll
yeah.
just be when we can at this point.
Hmm.
There's no hard schedule. People are at different points in their lives. All of our regular guests, a lot of them have kids or are starting like marriages as well. So yeah, everybody's in flux, but there will still be episodes of this podcast as often as I can get somebody to appear on them. Uh,
Which, as things are moving forward, Sunday nights are looking like they're going to be the easiest time for us to slide in here and do this for an hour, hour 15, maybe two. Because then it doesn't matter. It seems like no matter what, I'm always going to bed like 2 o'clock because I'm washing bottles. I'm putting them in the sterilizer. I'm cleaning up the kitchen. I'm relaxing for a little bit, maybe watching a movie or putting on a TV show, and then I'm going to bed. So
yeah,
we'll figure it out. We'll get it done. But again, I'm glad we could get on and do this for TV. I'll
uh,
make some notes about movies I've been watching. Maybe next weekend we'll catch
for
up on
sure.
some
You
stuff we've been.
mentioned, yeah, I was going to say you mentioned Axel F, and I definitely want to
Yeah.
discuss that with you because
Okay.
we'll just as a teaser, we'll say if you didn't check it out because you were like, this got the Netflix stink on it, like a sequel, what are we going to do? I will just say as a teaser to that discussion, Axel F way more in the Cobra Kai
Oh
camp of
yeah.
Lego sequels than I mean, I could name a shitty one, but we don't have to do that. But
No.
you guys know how we feel about Cobra Kai. This was way closer to that and what we want out of like if you're gonna do these things again, do them with some goddamn respect and do it right.
Exactly.
And you know what?
Perfect.
Did it right. It's a really good time. If you haven't seen it, go
Hell
check it
yeah.
out. We'll talk about it very soon. All right. Until next time, this has been the Arc Podcast. Thanks for listening.